Good morning, everybody. Betting for breakfast, college football, week 5, and we got a tremendous card in store today. I'm Mark Drumheller, and I am here with professional handicapper and Shorr. And thank you so much for riding shotgun with me today. I'm excited. You couldn't have picked a better week. We have so many incredible matchups. We got, Penn State, Indiana. We got Wisconsin, Michigan in the Big Ten. SEC, obviously, we're going to get into with Bama, Ole Miss, and Arkansas, Georgia. Tons of matchups for us to dig into today. How you feeling today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show. It's a pleasure being here with you. I think last time I saw you, we were doing college basketball, and now here we are already. Week 4 college football? It's been wonderful. So I'm happy to be here with you, Mark, and I appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad you can join us. College basketball season was a lot of fun. I remember going back there. You were killing the totals, so hopefully we can nail some more winners today. But guys, if you're listening, drop your best bets in the comments. We want to hear from you. Lexi's with us, handling everything on the back end. We're going to talk to her a little later in the episode about Michigan, Wisconsin. Huge game there. Can Harbaugh get the monkey off his back? In the big game against the Big Ten opponent. So really excited to get into that one. Make sure you guys are listening. Go download the Sharp app. It is the #1 app for sports gambling. You can get odds comparisons from all your favorite sports books. You can track all your bets, and you get all the content, the tools that we use. You can get the Sharp Academy Masterclass, even if you're a novice bettor just starting out, or if you want to learn more about arbitrage, setting your own lines. All that information is there in the app, so make sure you go download that today. It's a must-have for everybody betting college football. So, Ann, I'm coming off a week last week that was a little bit uneven. Had Western Kentucky, got the cover there against Indiana. That was a team that I just think I was down on in the beginning of the year on Indiana. Played under their win total. Michael Penix Jr. coming off the injury. That was a pretty easy target for me. But, the game that I really wish I could have back was Tennessee, Florida. I had Tennessee at 20.5. I got a great number in. And this is exactly what happens in college football, right? You beat the market. You get a great number. Everything is going perfect the entire game. And then all of a sudden, with 3 minutes to go, Dan Mullins is running up the score like it's the national championship. He's putting everything he can into the last drive. So they close the back door on Tennessee. Tennessee drives all the way down with Joe Milton at the last second, and Milton just airballs like 4 balls into the end zone. Doesn't even give his receivers a chance. So I really wish I could have that one back, but that's just kind of the things that happen in sports gambling.
So that was my nail biter game actually, and I was on the total for that. I did like Tennessee for that one too. So. But I was on the under for that game, and so that game was definitely a nail biter to watch. But
yeah, it was. I felt comfortable the entire time. I'm like, I got this 20.5. We're good. It was very competitive early in the game, and then Florida just kind of pulled away, and all I needed them to do was run out the clock, and Dan Mullins acting like it's the most important drive of his life. Emory Jones drives them down the field, and they get the win. So. That one didn't go my way, but I did get Arizona State at late night, Pac-12 after dark, so was excited to get Arizona State against Colorado. Colorado is just a team that is it's one of the teams that sometimes, let me get your opinion on this. So when there's a team that just the market seems to undervalue, like I feel like a Colorado, like it's hard for the market to, I think, reconcile like how bad they are. You know what I mean? And it's like, so, when you see a team like that, do you typically just pounce on them until the market adjusts?
Absolutely. I mean, there's definitely there's going to be situations where it seems like, the odd makers are definitely asleep. And it's usually after you see a very nice primetime game and then new lines are coming out and you take a look at it. And that's one thing, too, I love is to get to lock in early. Sometimes if it's what I'm leaning towards, I like to wait, especially if it's a total coming out and the total's not what I want it to be. I'll usually will wait a couple of days. And then if I see that it is going in my favor, then I pounce on it pretty hard.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's just, sometimes you have to wait for the market to settle. depending on the situation. I feel like whenever I get like an underdog, like if I see like a big number that I just think like, hey, this number is too big, like I'll pounce on that. But sometimes you have to let it settle. When we talk about Georgia and Arkansas a little bit later, we're gonna talk about that because that is a line that I wish I let settle. I think I'm on the wrong end of that. But before we get into our games today, Ann, I want to give the audience, again, I appreciate you hopping in here. Dave away on vacation with his family. He'll be back next week, but I appreciate you riding with me today. And tell the audience a little bit just about yourself, how you got into sports handicapping, being a professional handicapper, and just a little bit of, your journey in the space.
Definitely, Mark. So I've been a sports capper. It'll be 9 years coming up. During college, I played softball and just started creating my own analytics on how to improve my game, and as well as like some of my fellow teammates, and just doing predictions of, okay, guys, like if this is what we do, this is how our season's going to look. I use that a lot too, as I coach swimming now, doing a lot of analytics. And so one thing I had realized was I could use this and make money. So I started going out to Vegas when I was 21, 22. And these 1 week Vegas trips ended up turning into a couple weeks long because I was doing pretty well. At that point, I decided to get into sports handicapping. I work with private clients. I've been on a few different sites as a professional handicapper. And so here I am now, about to be 9 years this month. And I haven't had a losing year at all. So
that's awesome.
I'm able to luckily do it for somewhat of a living. So it's nice.
It's tremendous, man. Keep up the great work. And that's really, it's funny how you kind of explain like how you got into the analytics and things of that nature, because that's really what I think drew me to sports betting at a very young age, was that I was just so obsessed with sports. And especially my hometown teams, right? Being from Philadelphia, we're very passionate as far as our sports teams. And I was just determined to figure out like why my teams weren't winning. Because I'm dating myself, but being a young kid in the 80s, early 90s, right? Teams weren't that great, right? So I was just determined to figure out why. And that's really what drove me to stats. Back then you used to, open up the newspaper and all you had was, the top 10 guys in, whatever statistical category or not. And now, of course, with, data taking off, there's just a plethora of information out there. But I was just always determined to figure out why teams win, why they don't win, why my team's not winning, what they can do better. What should I be looking at for them to improve on? So when they make free agent signings and trades, I'm more, aware of how that's going to impact the team and whatnot. And it's just evolved as more data and more analytics become available. It's almost like a rabbit hole that I can't get out of. And I just want more and more information so I can learn exactly why teams are winning, why teams are losing, how they're going to be successful against certain opponents and whatnot. And that's really what drove me to sports betting. And then, once it took off the last few years, it's just been tremendous. It's great to see it mainstream, and it's great to see it have so much popularity now.
Definitely, Mark. It can send you down a rabbit hole some nights and just digging, and there's a lot. And then you also have to make sure you are finding the right stats and just making sure you're doing all the number crunching correctly. It can be very misleading.
Part of it,
you'd be surprised.
Part of it is definitely knowing how to use the information you have.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's not just the information; it's understanding how that applies to each game. And listen, guys, if you guys are listening, these are novice sports bettors. You can join Sharp Bets. The promo code is at the bottom. Free M Drum. You can join it now. You get a free month. Go over there and join it. You'll have access to all our professional sports gambling models, tools, information, everything you can name. So make sure you go visit that site today and join. Use the promo code, and you'll end up getting a free month. You can use all the models just like all the pros do. And let's get into these games now today. I mean, I cannot believe it is week 5, and there's just so much volatility. Like in college football, we've seen some of the top teams, Oklahoma struggled, Ohio State struggled, right? We went into the season and we're like, why even play the season? Let's just let these 4 teams play in the playoffs, right? Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. And that was really how everybody felt coming in. And now you're seeing Spencer Rattler and the Oklahoma offense looks very shaky. Ohio State obviously got smacked by Oregon, and they do not look the same. Are they going to be able to turn things around? They got guys quitting, guys just taking off, running down the runway, taking off their jersey, hitting Twitter, trashing the Ohio State program. It's out of control, and so they look shaky, and Clemson looks awful, right? No running game. The quarterback DJU, definitely struggling there. It doesn't seem to have the offense built around his strengths. I don't see them getting
back. A ton of injuries.
Yeah, ton of injuries. So it really just opens up the landscape for, teams like Oregon, and maybe a team from the Big Ten, to kind of like sneak into that playoffs. But one of the teams that has delivered, as far as the top teams contending, is the Alabama Crimson Tide. And they have a huge matchup today. Nick Saban against Lane Kiffin. I don't think there is a more exciting coach in college football than Lane Kiffin. I remember back when he was with Tennessee, causing all kinds of problems. The AD told him, stop wearing the black jerseys. I don't know if you remember when he was there, they used to wear the black jerseys of Tennessee. It looked so ridiculous because they were like white and orange. And the AD told him, no more black jerseys. They had like a primetime night game that night. I forget who it was against. And of course, Lane Kiffin has them trotting out there in the black jersey. He just totally didn't care. He ended up getting fired. The rest is history. But he's with Ole Miss now. And, Nick Saban has done a tremendous job against his assistants. But this is a game, the thing that really jumps out to me, 14.5 on the spread, Ole Miss getting points. We've seen that kind of move down a little bit. It had opened up at 16.5. The total opened up at 75.5. And I've seen this all the way up to 80.5 at some places.
Yeah.
It's completely incredible how this total is moving.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can look at some of the metrics we have on the board here. The one thing that jumps out to me, explosive plays and yards per play, very similar when you look at these two teams. But Ann, what is your take on the total in this matchup? You have the Alabama Crimson Tide, great defense, but Matt Corral, Heisman Trophy candidate, and Lane Kiffin have that Ole Miss offense humming again.
So everybody is looking at this total here. So, it's a great question, Mark. You had the total has gone from 74.5, and I checked it at like 7 a.m. this morning. It did touch that 80. It was flirting with it for a while, and then it looks like it has settled down now to the 79.5. So there is a ton of money coming in on this over, and I just think with how well both teams are playing, everybody is enjoying that, just thinks this is going to be a high scoring game. Just because this total is so high, it keeps going up. I'm going to have to go with the under for this one. You had Alabama, who's been playing well, but when they played Florida, Florida played very well against them. And from like a yardage standpoint, Florida beat Alabama 6.3 to 5.2 2 yards per play. And Alabama was outgained by 116 yards. So that's one thing I kind of stood out to me is how is Alabama going to do as far as playing offensive? Now, again, like two teams that have been doing incredible. You have Ole Miss, who's 3-0 against the spread. They've won every game in first downs, yards in opposition by at least 200 yards in every game, and they're averaging 3 sacks per game. They had a week off, so they are going to be well rested, which is nice. Alabama did not get that week off, so they might be a little bit tired. But just seeing that I just think this is one of these games where the public is all about the over. There could be some sharp action going in on the over, and just every bone in my body is telling me to take the under on this game. So I'm going to lean towards the under. I think we're going to see a lot of more defense today. You have Ole Miss coming off. They're rested. And again, like Florida showed a lot of Alabama's weaknesses. And so I think we might start seeing that a little bit more today. And, like you had mentioned, like, can we just go right to the playoffs? But there's still a ton of college football to be played. And I think we're going to start seeing that now in these like weeks 5 through 7. And today for me, I'm definitely leaning towards the under. Ole Miss is 46-28 against the spread in road games when playing against a team with a winning record since 1992. That average is coming out to 28-20, the opponent. So, but again, that's only 40. That's 49 right there. It is just way under. So I just think that this game is going to stay under. A lot of people are going to be surprised.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one, Ann, because, just from even a novice point of view, right? Like, if you're looking at it, like, we know that the odds makers set this line at 75 when it opened, right? 75.5, right? Now we're seeing it at 80.5, right? All right, maybe it's settling at 79.5, but
right.
79.80, right? Do we really believe that the odds makers were that far off, right? Like, there almost has to be by default value on this under, because this thing has moved 5 points since the open. So it seems like an overreaction to me in response to the fact that we have two Heisman Trophy candidates here with Matt Corral and Bryce Young. So people are automatically thinking points, right? And then we have last year's game, 63-48. Ole Miss ended up losing, but 111 total points. So I think, people see that and they think, okay, Lane Kiffin has Nick Saban's, number as far as from an offense versus defense perspective, right? This Ole Miss team is going to score points against the Alabama defense. But an interesting part, and you brought up a great point, I think Florida did show some of the weaknesses in Alabama and how you can beat Alabama's defense. And that was with the running game. It wasn't with the passing game. It was using the mobility from the quarterback position, which Ole Miss can do with Matt Corral. And I think Lane Kiffin's going to take advantage of it. So I think we're going to see a little more running in this game than a lot of people expect. People think, Heisman Trophy, okay, Matt Corral, Bryce Young, they're just going to be dropping back, throwing bombs, throwing lasers out there all game, lighting up the scoreboard. But I think that the way you beat this Alabama defense is through the ground and with a mobile quarterback. And I think Lane Kiffin's smart enough to realize that. So if you're running the ball, you get the clock running. And, it doesn't run as fast as it does in the NFL, but it's still going to be running. And I just think you're getting 5 points of value here on the total since the opening line. I think it screams under to me, to be honest with you. I think that, that it's a tremendous call.
And you're so right when you had said that about Alabama. And, they're 6th in the nation for, offensive rushing yards. And they just, per game, they're averaging 280 rushing yards. It's crazy. So I think last week they had like 298, something super high. And this is a team that's going to rush the ball. I think we are going to see that a lot today. And we did see that last week too with Florida.
Yeah, definitely. I might have to punch that one in myself. It definitely seems like a winner, man. I'm going to need it. But one thing I wanted to talk about, I think one of the most fascinating angles in this, Ann, and this isn't really, it's in regards to the point spread. We're seeing it at 14.5, but it is Nick Saban against his assistant coaches, right? You're going to hear that. The media loves this angle. They're pumping this out. Nick Saban absolutely dominating his assistants, when he plays them head to head, 23-0, average margin of victory, 23.5 points. Kirby Smart is the only coach, over at Georgia that has stayed within 13 points against Nick Saban. He did it twice. Since 2018, Nick Saban has put up an average of 47.9 points per game against his assistants. So that is something that, I think is very real as far as, hey, a lot of people talk about Lane Kiffin scored a lot of points against Nick Saban. He has his number. There is no better coach in college football than Nick Saban. And if this is a game when he plays his assistants, especially SEC, he sees all the hype Matt Corral's getting. He sees all the hype that Lane Kiffin's getting. He needs to make a statement in this game, because if Lane Kiffin is able to keep this close and Matt Corral is able to put up big numbers, that is a huge, huge win for Lane Kiffin on the recruiting trail, because he can go and recruit and say, hey, listen, I know you want to go to Alabama and it looks great. They won all these national
Mhm.
championships. But if you want to win the Heisman Trophy, if you want to beat Alabama, you can come here in Ole Miss and get that done. And I think that that's something that a lot of people are kind of looking past, is just how determined Nick Saban is going to be in this matchup. If I were to play the side, it's kind of back and forth. When this opened, it opened at 20. And then it immediately got bet down. Everybody's jumping
Right.
all over Ole Miss. And this is another situation of where I just think that there's probably line value on Alabama at the 14 and a half. I think Ole Miss could keep it close, not betting it either way. Like, this isn't one of my plays, but looking on the surface, I could definitely see Nick Saban try and make a statement here.
Yeah, if I had to take a spread on this, like I said, I'm definitely all about the under on this. Again, with this line opening up, I would agree with you on that. And I just think, again, Ole Miss has not given us a reason to not go against them right now. So this team just looks fantastic. And for me, there was a ton of sharp action coming in on the underdog. So I wouldn't be surprised. I would definitely lean, and I do agree with you on that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, listen, when they open it at like 20 points, I would jump all over. I just think now it's getting to a point of where, like, all right, like maybe it's flipped, almost like the total. Maybe the value's not on that side anymore because it's moved, so much. But let's talk about the other SEC game, and I want to pivot to that. And that's a game that is a little bit more up in the air, I feel like. I think a lot of people, the consensus is Alabama, even if they don't cover, going to win the game. Some people are not so sure now with this Georgia-Arkansas matchup. News coming out, JT Daniels might not play today. Might be very limited. So Georgia Bulldog fans who are very confident, I think earlier in the week coming in this matchup, are, we all been there, sweating it out a little bit, right? So, trying to figure out what's going on with their quarterback. Are they going to have to rely on Stetson Bennett the entire game? This is one that I jumped on early in the week, and I wish I could have it back. I alluded to that a little earlier in the show. I did lay the 18 and a half points with Georgia. The line now down to 16 and a half, probably dropping even further as we speak. And we have a total at 48 and a half. And, when I handicapped this game, when I looked at it, and I just thought that you have an Arkansas team that is, ascending, right? For lack of a better word, looking better and better each week. Each challenge they continue to knock down, right? But, each week is more of an emotional game that they have to get up for. And now they have to get up again, for a Georgia team who is, one of the most physically dominant teams in college football, right? Outside of the quarterback, like, they are going to just, maul you in the trenches. Georgia's number one in offensive success rate and defensive success rate this year. They got the number one defense in the country. The secondary gets a bump with Tyke Smith back. Tyke Smith is, an All-American transfer from West Virginia. I did a piece for Yahoo Sportsbook on West Virginia and their win total. They had a lot of turnover in that program this year. And, losing Tyke Smith was a big loss for them. He just kind of is another piece to the puzzle for a team like Georgia, but he's an incredible player. PFF ranked him top 25 defensive back coming into the season, top 50 overall player. So the Georgia defense is good. And with KJ Jefferson banged up, I don't think Arkansas is going to be able to move the ball at all. They're not going to be able to run on Georgia. And if he has to throw, like, I just don't think the Arkansas offensive line is going to be able to protect him, because they're not built to play that way. They're not built to play from behind. They're not built to throw the ball. So, I liked Georgia a lot in this matchup, but I have some nightmares from last year, from when I put American currency on Stetson Bennett and he did not deliver. So I'm sweating this one out a little bit, and I think the total is probably the better play in this one with the new news.
Right. So we'll get into the total. Definitely, this was one game that I really enjoyed handicapping, and you had mentioned a couple different players. One thing I think we will see is Zamir White. He'll probably get over 100 rushing yards today. This guy he hasn't been played as much, but when he is doing his role, he has done a great job. And I think today, because we don't know where JT is going to stand. There was just so much mystery about that Clemson game and just the aftermath that, nobody really knew like what's going on with his injury. Exactly. And then you had to miss the UAB game. And so there is still a big question mark. And I can understand how you feel, I don't know if I should have went Georgia with that spread, but if he is playing and if he's not limited, I just see this being a blowout, to be honest with you. What we might see from Arkansas is they're going to want to try to drop back and limit Georgia's passing attacks because that's what Georgia does well. I think Arizona will do that. And this is going to be a big game. And we were saying like the coaches know each other very well. But Arkansas, both teams. So going back to the total now, I'm kind of jumping all over, but going back to the total, my initial lean is the under with this game. Mm-hmm. Both quarterbacks aren't really healthy. So you have KJ Jefferson. And he is the only guy in the league right now throwing over 800 and rushing for 200. And so, like you said, every week they come out, they look great. They look better and better, but he also needs to be healthy. And that just raises a big concern. Then Daniels looked good though, last week against Vanderbilt. That's an easy win right there, obviously, but just overall, the whole question marks are these quarterbacks and their health. Mm-hmm. And so for me, again, I just had mentioned Zamir White going for over 100 rushing yards today. I think they're going to be rushing the ball a lot. And I see this game going under. My lean, I would probably lean towards Arkansas on this. They have a good offensive line. They've returned 5 starters. They look pretty good, over the last couple of weeks. So I think this might be a lot closer. Again, if their quarterback is in, if Daniels is in and he's playing, it's not really going to be much of a threat. So the Arkansas won't be much of a threat. So this is one of these games where I will be live betting that spread. Mm-hmm. And so, like I said, I'm going to watch that first quarter, see how both quarterbacks look. And, what I recommend for everybody in the audience listening is this is one of these games that I might live bet that spread and kind of go from there. But you have Trey Williams on Arkansas, who leads the league with pressure rate. So he can knock JT around, which could be a worry. So we need the proper protection for that. But the last, so he's been protected the last 2 games. And if he is protected as well, and, like I said, he's not limited to throwing far, he's going to throw a lot of meaningful throws. And I think we will see Georgia run away with this.
Yeah, he gets some help back. So like Georgia is getting healthy as far as, Darnell Washington is concerned, right? And they got, tight end Brock Bowers. So he's going to have some weapons. It's just I don't know what he's going to look like with it being healthy. Mm-hmm. And all this uncertainty around the quarterback screams under to me. Like I definitely think that is the play. Is to play the total if you're going to play this game, and then you can kind of live bet the number in game. This kind of happens when you try and get in front of the market. Sometimes you end up on the wrong end of it, and injuries pop up and those kind of things. And that's where I'm at right now with this game. I'm kind of drowning, on line value here. But, I did a much better job in my best bet, which we'll talk about later, where we're way ahead of the market. But in this one, minus 18.5 ticket, not great as the number continues to plummet. But I think that if Daniels plays and he's healthy, I think they can ragdoll this team. I just think that this is too much of a task for Arkansas to continue to try and get up week after week. And then now they have to play, which is arguably the best team in the country. I mean, if you were to ask me today, Georgia's plus, I want to say 250, maybe 210, somewhere in the plus 200 ranges, to win the national championship. And granted, the level of competition that they played is not the same. That
Right.
Clemson win doesn't look as good as it did week one, right? But
Exactly.
from a defensive standpoint, they do look that strong, and I think that that's going to be huge for them. And I think if you ask me for value, like I think them winning the national championship at this point at plus 210 or plus 250, I think there is some value on that just because of how good the defense is. They got to get the quarterback figured out. They have to get healthy there because they're going to need offense if they're going to play these teams in the college football playoffs. We see it every year. You know what I mean? That the
We
offense
do.
just kind of win out.
So, and then one thing that stood out, I mean, like I said, this is something I will probably live bet the spread on. And, you and I will probably talk throughout the day about this.
Yeah,
I can't believe we're only like an hour and a half away, right? So I just think I'm going to go see how Georgia handles the ball, how the quarterback is doing. I may end up doing something crazy going Arkansas money line, and I'll let you know what I decide. But Georgia, it just pulling up some strong statistics on this and a couple of facts, stats. It's really Georgia is 7-21 against the spread in home games when playing against a top level team since 1992. Georgia averages 25.8 and the opponents are averaging 26. Arkansas is 8-0 against the spread in their first half of the season over the last two seasons, averaging 29.4 and opponents averaging 20. Georgia is 5-16 in home games after allowing 17 points or less in 3 straight games since 1992. So just a couple of things I pulled up here because I think this game will be a lot closer. Again, it just all really depends on these quarterbacks. So
yeah, and you got to see
one thing
play.
I will love
you got to see what they look like, when they're out there, right? Like even if JT Daniels is able to give it a go, if he's out there and he looks hurt and he looks compromised, he looks injured, they might be better off with Bennett at that point because I'm going to need them to get some points, man. I'm hoping. I'm hoping it's very much like Clemson, and we get like a 21-3 game. That way we can hit the under. The under hits. We can cover this spread. If people get, I can cover. Oh, that wouldn't even cover the 18.5. I need more than that. 24-3. 24-3. We'll have to.
There you go.
Something of that nature.
There
you
go.
Win this.
I mean, literally, if he's playing and he's not limited, I would not be surprised here if Georgia blows him out. Mm-hmm. I really wouldn't. Yeah, it just really depends on this.
It's just a huge.
Kirby's just been avoiding so many questions. It's just been a whole mystery, especially after that. It left a lot of question marks. And so it's like, and then you come out here with this high spread and, they did blow Vanderbilt out, but it's just a lot of different question marks for me. And so that's why I'm going to definitely go with the live on that one. And I'll let you know what I end up doing.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a lot of fun either way. But let's get into our best bets. Those two games are going to be tremendous. Like I said, I have a play on Georgia. Do not have an official play on Bama or Ole Miss, but can't wait to watch it. It's going to be fireworks for sure. But let's get into our best bets. And I have one. I'm going to kick it off now. This is the other side of the coin, right? This is, where I do have some CLV here. I have the Penn State Nittany Lions. I got them at minus 10.5 at the opening number. We've seen it up to 12, 13 points. I still lay it here. And we opened up the show talking about targeting teams that are just kind of overvalued based on, whether last year's performance or this year's expectations. I mentioned Colorado. The market's really not sure how bad they are. I think Indiana is one of those teams, to be honest with you, that people are just still holding on a little bit to what they accomplished last year. I have zero confidence in Michael Penix Jr., doing anything against this Penn State defense, to be honest with you. Penn State's secondary, very, very good this year. Top 5 against explosive plays allowed. Top 5 against yards per pass. And the Indiana offense is outside of the top 100 in both of those metrics, right? So huge discrepancy there between, the Penn State secondary and the Indiana's passing game with Michael Penix Jr. coming back off the injury from last year. This is a revenge game. If you don't think that Penn State has this game circled after that game last year, that they lost on opening day where Michael Penix Jr. Listen, let's be honest, he wasn't in. It wasn't a touchdown. You can say whatever you
about
want.
that game.
So I
remember exactly where I was when that game was going.
I mean, I was on Indiana that game, so I was okay with it, But you know Franklin, and every player in that locker room has had this game circled because that really spiraled their season out of control. Like, it started off on a bad foot, and the season was just a nightmare from that point. So I think this is a game Penn State's going to get up for, considering that. And I think that Penn State is a team passing offense fourth in the Big Ten. You're seeing the maturation with Sean Clifford, who, granted, I wanted to throw up every time I watched them play coming into the season, but Mike Yurchik, the offensive coordinator, comes in, and you're seeing him get better and better each week. 28 for 32 against Auburn in the biggest stage this year. I think he comes to play today. I think this, Penn State offense gets moving, and I think they cream Indiana. I don't think this one's close at all. Again, I don't think Indiana, if they get behind, they're going to be able to kind of hang and come back against this Penn State secondary.
So I actually really like the total for that one. I believe it was around like 53.5. I put that in a parlay last night, and so I agree with you. I like Penn State for that. I think they're going to score a lot, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Indiana come out, put up a couple field goals, some touchdowns. I do lean with the Penn State, but I think this will be a nice little revenge game, and I'm going to definitely do the over on that game. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, hopefully the Nittany Lions carry that over.
This is going to be a good one.
10.5, right? That's what I'm all about. But before we bring Lexi on to talk about the Michigan-Wisconsin game, because that's going to be a lot of fun as well, why don't you give people one of your best bets for today?
Ooh, so I would definitely go. I'll give you guys two.
Nice.
I'm going to go with Ball State plus 10.5. A lot of people are falling in for some false notable trends. You'll see out there Army's 5-1, last 6 non-conference games. A lot of this is all line manipulation. That's one thing I caught. And, I can get into talking about that going, when I'm back on in the future. But this strictly is just line manipulation. So I'm going to go with Ball State plus 10.5. I'm very confident in that. It's not something where I'm going to bet my entire house on, but I know that's a winner. So I'm just going to throw easy $100 on that. But I just don't, the Army has been playing well. But I think Ball State has had some time to fix a lot of their mistakes. And again, just a public high on this Army team. And they've been a letdown for me in the past. So, and just to go back to one of my best bets, which we talked about before the show, would be that Bama. That I love that under there. I mean, if you can get it at the 80, that would be awesome. But I personally even lowered it I took plus money. I lowered it to I took it at 75. I think I got it for like plus 165. So
nice. Very nice.
That's just one of those things that I took, I went pounded. So,
yeah, I'm going alternate total.
That is, again, yeah.
And it's where it opens, so it's a fair line. You know what I mean? And now you're getting a fair line at plus money. You're getting the opening line. Yeah, very nice, very nice. Like that one a lot.
Yeah, so that's definitely one thing I feel good and confident about giving out today is that total right there. I crushed it last week with the totals, and then BYU killed me in that late game.
Yeah, I know. Well, BYU,
they tricked us.
I'll tell you, BYU has been a team that I have not been able to get my arms around, so to speak, all year. Like, I went into the season, they lost so many people in the offseason. Like this year with, having the rules with the pandemic to where, you can bring back seniors. We have these super seniors playing in their 15th year. It's ridiculous. But everybody has a ton of returning production except BYU. BYU lost everybody. Nobody came back. Everybody. And I was like, hey, down year, fading BYU early. Got trashed against Utah, had Utah laying the number, lost that game. And I was just like, I'm not messing with BYU anymore because I have no idea who they are. and they continue to just be up and down and very inconsistent. And when I think they're going to win, they lose. When I think they're going to
I
lose, they're going
know.
to win. So I'm just done with BYU. I put them in the black book. They're done.
Yep, they're
I'm
on
not
my
touching
dead
it.
list. I have a dead list. And so they made it last week. I took them first half. I took them first quarter, first half. And then I got a little greedy with those winnings and was like, oh, they're going to blow them out by 25 points. Still pounding them. And it just was like unbelievable. And you just completely gave up trying. And I was exactly like you, Mark. I was like, they're dead to me. They're on my dead list. So they're there, and they'll be there for a while.
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna put them away. Maybe we'll open them up next year, but I'm definitely staying off BYU for the rest of the season.
I'm done. Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised today if they, or not today, but it's like last night they get the cover, so it's like nothing surprises me, and I won't be surprised if they do it again next week or the following. But it's public is going to fade them, I think, for a little bit, and so they might cover the spread these next 1 or 2 weeks, but then everybody's going to go back on, and then they're going to go back to not covering, and I'm just done with them. There's, like you said, there's so many better games on.
yeah, there's so many better games to choose from, and Pac-12 after dark has been crazy. I think I read a stat like Dogs are like 16-2 or something in those after dark games, like after 10 p.m. Just crazy, crazy things going on in the back.
We see it all the time, especially with like the Mountain West the Mountain West League. You see it all the time. So
it's so nuts.
That's interesting.
It's so volatile, man. And those late night games are crazy, and it's a shame because like they're the ones you need the most, right? You're down. If you're down on the day, you're always like, all right, I'm going to fire one up for the Pac-12 after dark.
Or if you get greedy like me.
Yeah, you better. You're right. Or you get greedy. You're like, hey, I'm up, so I'm going to just try and, use some of this money here and cash in some more. Yeah, definitely same thing. But let's talk about Michigan, Wisconsin. Let's bring Lexi on. Lexi doing a tremendous job for us in the back. Making sure everything's running smoothly, handling everybody with the comments. Lexi, why don't you join us now, and we can talk about this Michigan-Wisconsin game, which I am very excited. Dave, who is usually with me, my partner in crime, is on Wisconsin in this game, -2.5, so you can have words with him next week, Lexi. But what are your thoughts on, Harbaugh getting a chance to kind of get the monkey off his back with these big games against the Wisconsin Badgers today?
Yeah, you don't have to tell me twice. I've been living it for a long time now, but I don't blame Dave on taking Wisconsin. Not winning in Camp Randall since 2001. You'd think Wisconsin was the Buckeyes for us. So it's just, it really today depends on capitalizing on any mistakes that Mertz might make, similar to last weekend. And really, it's going to be a low-scoring game. It's going to be all defense, I think, but really it's just about getting our run game out there. With coming on with Blake Corum and Hassan Haskins, it's kind of like the lightning thunder duo. So really it's like today is going to be, I think, the ultimate test. If they stop the run, we're going to see really what Cade can do, because I still haven't been able to see that. Don't get me wrong. Keep running, because you're like, fifth in the nation in rushing yards per game at like 290 yards. So, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But I think this is going to be a huge game. Everyone always says certain other games, but I think this is going to be the ultimate test for Michigan, especially in the passing game. But really, it's just capitalizing off any mistakes that Wisconsin makes, because it's not easy winning in Camp Randall. And
no, man, and Graham Mertz has made plenty of mistakes this year. So that is the good news for Wisconsin backers. And this is this is another total that kind of jumped out on me that I still might pounce. Like I think this screams under, because when you look at it, the Wisconsin defense, Michigan's going to try and run. It's going to be like a battering ram. Like, who's going to win that? Whoever does win it, I think Michigan will eventually wear them down and win the game. But it's not going to be easy, and I think this is going to be a very slow game. She mentioned about Caden McNamara. Really hasn't had to push the ball downfield a lot, and if that running game isn't there, we're going to find out whether he can do it. But I think, at 43.5, I think this jumped out at me as a total that would probably be a play on for the under.
Yeah, I definitely am setting the under in this game.
Yeah, I like the under too, but like, I do. I love it. And I agree with everything you guys are saying. Michigan's great on defense. They love putting pressure on the other quarterback. I just am so concerned with Graham being a turnover machine freak. So, and that's that's us total people who, and I make my living off of totals. I hate that. So and even like with last night's game, there was a ton of turnovers. It's just, to me, I love the under, and I agree with everything you guys are saying. This might be one of these games I'm gonna live bet. Just because I am concerned with Graham. It's like turning over the ball, and then it's like, boom, right there.
I know.
Definitely, and that's what we saw last week, right? Against, in that Notre Dame-Wisconsin game, it was an under the entire game, and then, you get all these turnovers, all these crazy plays at the end, and, Notre Dame ends up running away with it, scoring 40-plus points and, blowing the total out of the water. Lexi, what is the feeling around Michigan, like you being local, being right there in Ann Arbor? Is there confidence? Is there a little trepidation? Like, here we go again? Or is it like, hey, this is the year where Harbaugh, I know going into the season, a lot of people down on Harbaugh, a lot of people are feeling like, hey, he's a good opportunity to prove everybody wrong. So how much confidence is with Michigan going into this game?
I'm going to be honest. I think there's just still a lot of questions out there. We haven't really seen, a lot of Big Ten play yet, and we haven't really been in situations that force us to be uncomfortable. I mean, in that Rutgers game last weekend, that second half was atrocious. So if we play like that,
didn't pull away.
So it's really, there's not a lot of confidence. I think everyone is still hasn't bought in. Me, I feel like I buy in every year. I'm chugging the Kool-Aid, and I get heartbroken. So I'm like, I'm still wary. I think that's why I say that this is going to be a big game, because if I see them come out strong, and if we get a win in Camp Randall, then give me, undefeated going into Michigan State on October 30th. So I think that, today is a huge game, but I think if we win today, then I think a lot more people are going to buy in and be confident that things are actually different this season.
Absolutely. So before we get out of here, Lexi, I'm going to have to hit you up with a score prediction. Give me the score prediction for Michigan, Wisconsin.
Okay. I think it's going to be 21-17. Michigan.
There we go.
I like that.
I do too. I think that we hit the under. We got a Michigan cover. Dave doesn't like it. He's probably driving off the road now with his family if he's listening. But I just think I can't back. I understand all the angles that are like towards Wisconsin here. I didn't bet it, and this is for the reason is because I'm worried about McNamara having to throw like deep down the field if Wisconsin shuts down that run. But I just think that it's like this. Like, I can't back Graham Mertz and the way that Wisconsin offense is playing. I think that offense is so bad. I think Michigan pulls away with the W here and keeps this thing rolling. And if they do, it's going to be a huge vote of confidence for them. But listen, girls, tremendous episode. I had so much fun today, and I appreciate you so much for joining. We're going to have to do it again in the future.
Pleasure.
You got to come hang out, especially when Dave back. You can come hang out with us, and we'll cap some games, pick some winners for the people. Before we get out of here, though, and tell everybody where they can follow you, and if you have any last thoughts, any other games you like, or anything you want to drop on the audience.
Yeah, so you guys can follow. I just had made a Twitter this year, a little bit behind on the times, everyone. I came requested from a lot of clients, and so you can find me on @Shorr, ANNESHORR. And that's where I do post. I try to get up a couple free picks a week, and we've been over 50% hitting those. And if you are interested in purchasing my premiums, as well as coming on as a personal client of mine, again, I have not had a losing record in 9 years, going on 9 years now. You can reach out to me on my Twitter. I think I had put my Twitter in my username when I came to sign on here. But again, it's @Shorr, so feel free to hit me up anytime. And if I was to throw out an extra play, I can give you guys, let's see. I'm going to leave you guys with like one extra. I'll give you guys a quick, we'll do a parlay. We'll do the under for the Alabama Ole Miss We're going to go Florida State, the -5.5 against Syracuse. It's been crazy. And we're going to go with UCF against Navy, the -16. So parlay those up. If you're not a fan of the UCF, go for the over at 52.5.
There you go. Absolutely love it.
We'll end on that. I'll go out of the bag here.
The best bets are the under in the Alabama game and Ball State, right? They're the two ones. Really want to focus on, guys. Play those. Put in a little bit on the spot there at the end with the last two, but don't worry about it. But Ball State, put the money on Ball State. We're going to cash. Definitely going to play that one as well. But listen, and thanks again for coming on. Had a tremendous time. Hopefully everybody has a great Saturday filled with winning bets and minimal sweats. We want to make sure we don't have to sweat none of these out. But even if they do, if we end up on the right side, it's a win for us. Enjoy this incredible college football card. We will be back next week. I'll be back with my guy, Dave. And let's hope Michigan gets a win for Lexi. Let's hope all these bets hit and we cash out. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.